Hi, this Effin GM here.
And I'm this Effin Daughter.
And today we're here to talk to you about the Dungeons and Dragons panel at Pax Unplugged in Philadelphia 2023. That was a mouthful. That was a lot to say.
Yep.
Why did I say that much?
Wordy sentence.
Wordy sentence. Well, as Dungeons and Dragons is entering its 50th year, I was thinking to myself, I got started playing this game when I was about 12 years old. And it turns out that this game is kind of made for people who are 12 years old and up. And this Effin Daughter, how old are you?
12.
Well, doesn't that make this really convenient? So, I had my daughter sit down and watch with me this Dungeons and Dragons panel. In the panel, we got to hear from Jeremy Crawford, we got to hear from Chris Perkins, James Wyatt, and Amanda Hammond. And they talked about a lot of things, including the history of Dungeons and Dragons and such. But what we sat down to watch specifically was the future portion, where they talked about the brand new books that are coming out in the first half of 2024. That's next year. Mm-hmm. Yeah, awesome. So I figured that we would take a look and see what's coming out, and then I would give my thoughts, but also garner my daughter's thoughts on this. So that sounds like a lot of fun. What do you think?
Good.
Awesome. High five. Good time. We are terrible at high fiving. I think we just hit thumbs. Try it again. Oh, that was slightly better. Okay, so, and it's all Dad. Dad's the one who's ruining this. Okay, so, first product that they brought up was Descent into the Lost Caverns of Khan, which I have been absolutely mispronouncing for years. I'm not going to say what I've been saying because it is really different. But if you remember, Descent into the Lost Caverns of Khan, what they're talking about is that there is this older adventure from older D&D called The Lost Caverns of Khan. And they are going to re-release those adventures, but as kind of distilled down into these little one-shots, these like one night, one session little adventures that people will do. And this begins in January. I think it's January. They stripped all the dates out because I think somebody wasn't supposed to put the dates on those slides. But they're going to distill them down to these little one sessions, so they're just kind of easy and fun to run in one night, and they're going to release a number of these throughout the course of the year. I think that sounds really fun. What do you think about having these little adventures based on these old classic adventures?
I think that it would be fun doing it bit by bit, like having these little adventures, when you can, and it doesn't take that long.
Yeah.
So you can feel more victorious and courageous to the next one.
Yeah, cause like you accomplish something, right? Now I play. You know that I play Dungeons and Dragons a lot, like way too much. Like, way too much. And my campaigns last for years sometimes. And they can take a long time to get to the end and really feel like you did something. And while I think that's great, I think you're kind of right. I think it's great with these little adventures because you can really get that feeling of having completed something with you and your friends, right? Yeah, I love that perspective, actually. That is nice perspective. Good high five.
Yay!
Now, you don't need to yell. Okay, all right. So, I'm pretty excited about these. I'm curious to see what will come after that. Did you, by the way, see that picture that they had? Here, let's show them the picture. Here, let's move out of the way, and we're going to put the picture right here. Yep. Okay, you see that? Okay, did you happen to see that big monster that was on the front of it? The big blue monster breathing lightning down?
It looked like a dragon, but I didn't see any wings.
It's not a dragon. It's actually... let me show you. It is a behir. That's what I call it. These big, like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12-legged beasts, right, like this, that breathe lightning. Yeah? I think it's neat. And so what we saw on the cover was an homage to the classic cover where there's a big behir breathing lightning down on a bunch of heroes trying to stop it, right? I thought that was really cool. So, but yeah, it kind of does look like a dragon, right? Kind of like a blue dragon. Mm-hmm. What do blue dragons breathe?
Lightning.
Nice. All right, so we're going to move to the next product that they announced. And this product is, we don't know when it's going to release, but it's said end of May before they strip the dates off. And we're talking about the new adventure, Vecna Eve of Ruin. So Vecna Eve of Ruin, let's show them a picture of the cover real quick before we forget. Hey, look at that. Isn't that a handsome boy? Okay, so Vecna Eve of Ruin is the next big adventure that they're going to release. Because every year they release a couple of big adventures. Ones that aren't for one night, but rather for many nights, if not months, if not years. And this one is going to go all the way to level 20. This one's going to level 20. We have only had one adventure thus far that I have seen that goes all the way to level 20, or at least advertises itself as such, which is the Waterdeep Dungeon of the Mad Mage, which is this big, massive dungeon. Anyway, so Vecna, Eve of Ruin, what this is supposed to be about, this is going to be how do they describe it? They described it like there's it's kind of a tour through the history of D&D, right? A tour of the who's who. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they mentioned that we're going to meet some old characters, right? See some old lands, even some lands from, kind of revisit some stuff from 5th edition. Yeah. They also said that it spanned the what did they
multiverse?
say? The multiverse. That's exactly what they said. What is the multiverse? What is that?
Multiverse is connection of realities that can spin off into different directions.
I am so proud of you right now. I can't even begin. I am not coaching her. I'm so proud of you. Look at you. You're gonna be a big nerd like your dad. Oh no! But yeah, they talked about how this is gonna be spanning the multiverse. Now, for those of you at home, you may know that Dungeons & Dragons recently came out with a brand new setting just about a month ago, Planescape Adventures in the Multiverse. So I personally think that this is going to be set within the Planescape setting, or at least start there. But that's the thing I've read. I don't think you haven't read Planescape yet,
no,
have you?
I have not.
That's okay. That's all right. It's a lot of reading. They also mentioned that whole revisiting older things that have already happened in like the 5th edition time period, like the past 10 years. So personally, designers, if you're listening, I am really interested to see if we're going to get a showdown between Acererak and Vecna, two big liches battling it out. Now, when you saw that, did anything interest you? Did you have any questions about that?
About the multiverse one?
Well, yeah, Vecna, Eve of Ruin is what they call it.
Who is Vecna?
Who is Vecna? Yes. Okay. So there's a great video by Matt Colville that explains Vecna, and you can see that right above my kid's head right here. But oh no, hold on, wait, never mind. Scratch that. I can't put other people's videos on mine, I don't think. Yes, I can. Yeah, right up here above my kid's head. You can't see it though. But Vecna, long story short, Vecna is a big evil lich. Do you know what a lich is?
Yeah.
Yeah, what's a lich?
A lich is kind of like an evil wizard or witch. That's basically all I know. I know a demi-lich is just the head. Just
a skull, right? Because it's not just a witch or a wizard or an evil spellcaster. It's a undead one. Because that's the big thing, is that they died. But what they do is they take their souls and they lock it into a receptacle so they can stay alive forever. And Vecna is one of the most famous liches in Dungeons and Dragons. Vecna is from really a lot, like year, it's been around for years and years and years, decades, longer than I've been around. And Vecna is kind of a god, or at least wanted to be a god. Kind of depending on what D&D edition you're looking at. Sometimes he's portrayed as a god, sometimes he's portrayed as somebody trying to be a god. He is, this megalomaniac. He wants to rule the entire cosmos. He wants to be the god, if not a god, then the god. He has been known to destroy some of the most powerful wizards in the land. He has been known to escape from Ravenloft. Do you remember, Ravenloft with Count Strahd? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Ravenloft's kind of like a prison, right? And Vecna is like one of the few who's broken out of it. And then he went to Planescape. He went to Planescape, and that's the last time we saw him, because he was presumably vanquished by heroes when he tried to use kind of a plot that he had in Sigil, a city within Planescape, to become a god. And that's the last time we saw him. So some people have theorized that maybe he's somewhere around Sigil, maybe in a gigantic hole in the spire. I don't know, just throwing that out there. And that maybe this adventure is about him coming back. So does that answer your question, kind of who Vecna is? There's a lot of information that I just tried to distill down. So yeah. Great question. Well, I'm personally really excited about this one. Again, it goes, it's supposed to go all the way up to level 20. And again, this isn't, it doesn't happen very often with official adventures. This is actually a common complaint, is that there's not a lot of high level play, and I feel like we're going to get a lot of high level play this time around. Yeah.
What is the average height of levels for a game?
20 is kind of the highest it goes. It goes from level 1 to 20, and then it kind of caps off there. Now, you can still gain special powers through boons. They're called epic boons. Once you hit level 20, it's not done. You can get these special power called boons, which will make your character a little bit stronger, but you stop getting levels. You don't get like level 21, 22, or 23. It just kind of stops there in terms of levels.
Like a 20-sided die.
Like a 20-sided die, yeah. They seem to like 20. Although this year I think they like 50 because it's the 50th anniversary. Your dad's not that old, though. No. Nice. Good kid. Okay, next product is the Quests from the Infinite Staircase. Now, for those of you who have played Tales from the Yawning Portal, this could be a very similar product. What apparently this is that this is a anthology that's supposed to come out in, I think they said around July. That's going to be an anthology of these older adventures that have been updated to 5th edition, or 1 D&D at that time, which is 5th edition, I guess. 5.5. I'm just going to call it I'm going to call it what it is. But that's fine. 5.5 is okay. Anyway. So it's an anthology of multiple shorter adventures, not one-night ones, but like shorter adventures. And these are going to be old adventures that are going to be brought into 5.5 edition, much like the book Tales from the Yawning Portal, which is one of my very favorite books. I know that within there they had the Sunless Citadel, the first 2 of the Sunless Citadel adventure path. I'm really hoping we get the rest of it, but that may not happen. I don't know. I'm super curious on what they're gonna have inside of that thing. Did you see that picture? Oh, let's show them the picture. Look at that big white-haired guy. That guy looks nuts. He's like cradling over something, like maybe the earth or something. I don't know. That guy looks awesome. But we don't know who that is. Do you know who that is?
No.
I have no idea because nobody knows who this is. This is a brand new character. I'm wondering if it's going to be Dungeons & Dragons' version of the Watcher from Marvel. Do you know who the Watcher is in the Marvel movies or shows?
No.
Yeah, that's okay. He's played by Jeffrey Wright in the cartoon, and it's fantastic. Hey, Jeffrey, if you're watching for some weird reason, great work, buddy. Anyway, so this is gonna be an anthology of kind of like adventures that maybe last a couple of weeks or maybe a month or so, right? Which is a lot more digestible than these 1 to 20, which can last years, right? So what do you think about that? Do you have any thoughts on that? Any questions?
I think it's great for the people who don't want to have a short adventure, but I don't want to have a really long one. They can just have somewhere in the middle where they can just.
Yeah, well, you know, where you get the promise of spending more time with friends, but not the commitment of having to spend all your time with your friends. Who wants to spend all of their time with their friends?
You need some alone time.
Yes, you do, 100%. What was the other thing I was going to say about that? Now, clearly, Quest from the Infinite Staircase, for those of you who are into Planescape, and again, we have yet another Planescape reference. Tales from the Infinite Staircase is an older product from back in the 90s for Planescape. So this kind of has a similar feel. Now I'm wondering if we're going to get the Great Modron March. Now that's a big adventure. I don't know. Oh, I'm really excited about this one. I love anthologies. Okay. The next book they talked about was The Making of Original Dungeons and Dragons, 1970 through 1976. Let's go ahead and show the picture of that. Okay. Well, that's not really a big flashy cover, but it's still pretty interesting. What this book is it is a 500-page history book about the making of the game in those early years. Now, there are a lot of great books about the origins of Dungeons & Dragons and the subjects, and one of the best writers, most well-known also, is John Peterson. And Dungeons & Dragons have brought John Peterson in to help write this book. Now, this is not only going to be just a replay of, Game Wizards, the history and things like that. This is going to be it's also going to include the original books, all of the original D&D books, those soft covers inside of this big book. It's also going to include historical context notes. It's going to include letters that have never been before seen. This is kind of a big deal for those big history Dungeons & Dragons, history people, Dungeons & Dragons people. The Venn diagram in this book's going to be right here in the middle of that Venn diagram. Do you know what a Venn diagram is?
Yeah.
Sweet. Okay. I'm not gonna make you prove it. So, Yeah, I trust you. But do you have any thoughts on that book, the big history book? History's like your favorite subject on earth, right?
No.
No, it's your mom's favorite subject, though. Yeah, for sure. But what do you think about this book? Does it seem kind of interesting a little bit?
Yeah, I think that it's huge.
Yeah. Huge because huge is in, whoa, this is going to be the biggest thing, or like huge because it's 500 pages? Yeah. Well, maybe I'll read it to you before bed. Okay, maybe not. All right, well, all right. So maybe not so much for my 12-year-old, but that's going to be something I'm going to be very interested in seeing, so. All right. The next thing they talked about is the next 3 books are the core 3 because they are remaking the Dungeons and Dragons rules for the 50th anniversary. Now we know that we call it 1 D&D, you might call it 5th edition expanded. I just you might call it 5.5. Whatever it is the rules being revised and polished up, and we've known about this coming through the playtest for a while now, and we're finally going to see them in 2024. The date said end of May, which is actually the exact same day as Vecna Eve of Ruin comes out, which I think is interesting because that means I'm going to have to save up a lot of money to get 3 core rulebooks and an adventure, but I'm going to buy them because I'm really excited about it. Anyway, okay, so the first book they talked about was the Player's Handbook, and they showed us this brilliant piece of art because apparently this book is filled with new art, right? Like they mentioned the art a couple of times, and they showed us this brilliant picture, this full-page picture of the fighter, and each class is going to get its own full-page picture, or like they mentioned that, right? And they showed us this beautiful picture of a dwarven fighter that'll kind of represent what the fighter is, and I think, well, I love new editions. I'm kind of a sucker for it. I've been around since 3rd edition, then I saw 3.5 edition, then I saw 4th edition, then I saw 4th edition Essentials, and now we're on 5th edition, and I'm now going back and collecting old editions. I like collecting this stuff. I like seeing how things change over time, and I like watching the designers take what they've learned over the years and then show us how they implement the feedback and how they implement the changes. I'm very excited about this.
I can tell.
Yeah, right. Now, it's fun because you're about that age. I think you're about that age now where personally I think you should start playing with your old dad, but we can
You're
talk.
not that old.
Okay, I'm not. Thank you. This is why she gets the big room. Anyway, so that's also because you're the oldest, but we won't go into that now. So, Player's Handbook. There's a lot to go over with that. We're not going to be going over every single thing that they had to say about that. But what I will go over are some of the things that they mentioned that I personally hadn't heard before. First of all, it's supposed to be the biggest Player's Handbook ever, right? And then they say that they're going to have a ton of subclasses. Mm-hmm. Do you remember how many subclasses they said were going to be in there?
48.
48. That means each class, and there are 12 classes. Each class, okay, if there are 12 classes, and there's 48 subclasses, how many subclasses does each class get?
4.
Good Lord. Yeah. See, this is why you can get grades in math. Look at you. Blah. So 48 subclasses, that's going to be 4 each. Heck, so we know we're at least going to get one more warlock than we had before. What else did we find out? We found out that backgrounds are completely different. Oh, we should show them the picture of the backgrounds. Look at these. First, the backgrounds literally have background pictures, which is kind of neat. But if you look at the text, you'll notice that it's so streamlined. Also, I don't know if you noticed, but species no longer have the ability score bumps. They're now putting this into backgrounds, which is a very modern design thing I've seen at least a lot lately. And I'm happy to see Dungeons & Dragons are adopting that method as well. They're no longer calling them races. They're calling them species now. Okay? Makes sense? Mm-hmm. See, a 12-year-old gets it. Anyway, so backgrounds, the backgrounds are updated. The species are being updated. We've got the brand new art, 48 subclasses. I think this thing looks awesome. Do you have any thoughts on the new Player's Handbook?
I like the cover.
Yeah, well, that wasn't the cover. That was just the picture of the fighter. We haven't seen what the cover looks like.
Oh.
Yeah, there's gonna be a page within the book. But you like that picture?
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to show them again?
Yeah.
Yeah. Look at that. Okay, the next one we got that they talked about, which is they kind of crammed together the Dungeon Master's Guide to the Monster Manual, which we have seen very little about in the 1D&D playtest. So it was exciting to get any information out of this for me. What did they have to say about the Dungeon Master's Guide? They said the number one thing they wanted it to be was useful. Do you remember them saying this? They're like, we want this book to be useful.
No, I don't remember.
Oh, okay. Well, they repeated it a couple times, but I would have started to gloss over a little bit too. No, that's fine. That's fine. Usually the Dungeon Master's Guide are kind of just a magic item reference is what they said. After a while, you read it the one time, then you just go back for the magic items. But this time they're reorganizing it, trying to make sure that the information is going to be really useful to not only people who've already been playing D&D for a while, but also to new Dungeon Masters. And if you saw my video about clean procedures, which you can see right above my daughter's head right here, yeah, that one right there, nice. You know that I believe they're missing some crucial pieces of information. So if they're tailoring this now to really help new Dungeon Masters in to onboard them, this is good news. And you're not a Dungeon Master yet, are you?
No.
Have you ever thought about maybe trying it someday?
Maybe.
Yeah, well, this would be useful for you then because you would be new. Yeah, so you get it.
I like seeing both sides of basically the conversation.
What do you mean?
I like seeing people's different views about it, like the Dungeon Master's view and the player's view of the adventure.
Oh, sure, yeah. No, that makes total sense. And when you have the Dungeon Master Guide and the Player's Handbook, right? Like you basically get to take these two conversations, hand them off, and then when you take them back, you go like, hey, what do you think about this? Well, I think it's great. What do you think about this? And that's kind of how 5th edition Dungeon Masters felt because the players got this great book, but then the Dungeon Masters kind of get this book. But they're going to reorganize it. They're going to reorganize it. What did they also say about it? Speaking of magic items, the Dungeon Dragons cartoon, the kids each had a special magic item. I don't know if you've ever seen the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon.
No.
Okay, yeah, that's all right. I do have the box set if you ever want to watch it. It's a cartoon from the 1980s, I want to say.
Oh.
Each kid had a special magic item, right? There's a girl with an invisibility cloak. There's a girl who was she was an acrobat. Her special magic item was like this bow staff that like could extend as long as she wanted. Yeah, right. Kind of cool. The ranger, I want to say he was a ranger. He had a bow that was made of energy, right? And he just pulled back the string, and an arrow would just appear, and he just shoot these bolts of energy out, right? So kind of like a combination between Green Arrow and Green Lantern, right? Kind of cool. I don't know. So they're going to put those items inside of the book, which I think is pretty neat for those of you who really want to have that nostalgia feel. What else did we learn? That was pretty much what we learned about the Dungeon Master's Guide, right? We didn't really learn much else. No, there's going to be a whole new campaign setting in it. Do you know what a campaign setting is?
A campaign setting, I believe, is...
You okay?
Yeah.
No, you don't need to apologize to me.
A sort of like a collection of this one game adventure that goes on for a while.
Well, that's a campaign. So what a campaign setting is the world in which, or the setting in which those campaigns or adventures take place in. Right. So you read, what's the book about dragons that you read? Wings of Fire.
Yeah, Wings of Fire.
Where is what is the world of Wings and Fire?
The places it is set is in Pyria and Pantala.
Mm-hmm.
3 tribes live in Pantala, and 7 tribes live in Pyria. And they both have very, very different geography.
Yeah, okay, so those would be the settings, right? It's not just the 2 places, but it's also the people and the tribes that live there. That's part of the setting, right? And the adventurers, or the heroes, go through and meet and interact with all these people in these strange situations. So the setting is basically everything that's not the specific story that they're on, or the specific characters who are the main characters. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like Planescape. I keep mentioning Planescape. That's a setting, a campaign setting.
You seem to really like Planescape.
I have become obsessed with Planescape, but I have so many theories. One of my theories is that the whole I firmly believe that Planescape is going to become the new core Dungeon Dragon setting, but that's neither here nor there. That's just a dad thing. That's just a dad thing. Okay, so Monster Manual. Let's talk about that real quick. There is a dedication to more high level play. They talked about this a lot, right?
Also, I think there's 500.
Over 500 new monsters, right? Because they said this is the smallest Monster Manual ever, right? No, they said it was the biggest Monster Manual ever. Ha! I tricked ya. All right, yeah, over 500 monsters. Apparently, they have a big thing about the 50, but with another 0, because that one book had 500 pages. This got 500 plus monsters. That's nuts, right? So, one of the monsters they talked about was the Blob of Annihilation. Did you hear them talk about the Blob of Annihilation?
Yes, I imagined it as just like a blob, like kind of the black ooze. but much more blobbier. It would just plop up from overhead on you.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And this thing is a challenge rating 20, right? Which means it is for the highest of high-level characters, right? So, in my opinion, and tell me what you think about this, but what if instead of a black pudding, because I think that's what you're talking about, right? The big black sludge, instead of having a black pudding that's big enough to cover an ogre, maybe this is one that covers a city. Oh, that's a big blob, right? Yeah. Okay, but there's a big dedication to more high level play. Now we already talked about how Vecna, Eve of Destruction. What did I call that? Eve of Ruin. So sorry, my brain is shutting down. But we talked about how that adventure could go all the way to level 20, so real high-level play that we don't see very often. And they also mentioned that in this monster manual, they're going to be focusing a lot on that high-level play, a lot more higher-level monsters. They're going to be taking high-level monsters that already exist, and instead of changing their challenge ratings, they're going to adjust them to make the challenge rating match. They basically admit that they kind of had gotten the math a bit off when it came to making those higher level monsters. So we're going to see monsters that do a lot more damage and have a lot more resistance, So like imagine the biggest dragon you can, right? Do you think I should be able to beat that dragon with one hit?
No.
No, right? Because it's the biggest dragon you've ever seen, right? Yeah, what's your favorite kind of dragon, by the way?
Of D&D dragons?
D&D dragons, yeah.
It would be one of the good dragons. It would be brass dragons.
I love the brass dragons. Now, they are my favorite of the good dragons. Now, my personal favorite overall is either the reds or the blacks, but mainly because I just like their frills on their head. I think it makes them look neat. Okay, what's your favorite dragon, non-Dungeon Dragons?
Non-Dungeons & Dragons, that would be Night Fury.
Oh yeah, from How to Train Your Dragon.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. What's your favorite part about him? Is it the fact that he's toothless, even though he's really not toothless?
I like the fact that he sometimes acts like a cat.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun, right? Okay, so what else do we know? Some creatures we know about for the new monster manual. We've got the Blob of Annihilation. We've got something called an Arch Hag, right? You kind of like an Archmage, but Archmage, but instead it's an Arch Hag, right? You know what a hag is, right? Like like one of those like your iconic witch, right? With like the green faces and the long nose and the big warts. They're like like that, right? That's hags in D&D. So the Arch Hag, I think, is probably gonna be like a slightly taller one and probably more jewelry and probably goes right? No? You don't think that's enough to be called Arch Hag? All right. Another thing they also mentioned is that we're going to be seeing a lot. Each monster is going to be brought to kind of modern modern design philosophies to make them, probably have like more bonus actions, more reactions and such. So that's good for me because I want to see things brought. It's been 10 years of development, so let's bring all those old monsters in. And my very favorite part that they mentioned is that these new monsters, each monster is now going to get something kind of unique about them to get a unique feel. And so rather than having 17 different flavors of brutish warrior, we're going to see that things like species like orcs and hobgoblins like truly have differentiations about them, animals having differentiations about them. Also, this book's going to have a ton more NPCs. I'm just excited. As a dungeon master, monster manuals are the most useful book, and I want to get my hands on all of the monster manuals that I can, whether they be third party or not. So I'm just excited to see more. Okay, well that was it. That was all the books that they gave us, right? That was all 7 of them? Yeah, awesome. Okay, well, out of all of those, what sounds the most interesting to you?
A monster book thing.
The monster manual that I was talking about? You want to flip through that one when I get it? Because I'm totally going to get it. I'm going to get it. I always run out and buy them as soon as they come out. So, yeah, like a kid in the candy store, right? Is that a phrase that means anything to you, a kid in the candy store? Is that too old?
More like me and Almond Joy.
Yeah. Almond Joy is the best. Yeah. If you don't like coconut, get out of here. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you for staying. Anyway, okay, well, I think that's all we had to talk about today. Well, this Effin Daughter, I want to thank you for being on the show today.
You're welcome.
Wonderful. Excellent. And this Effin GM, will see you next time. I don't know if there's going to be a next time. Yeah, I guess next time there's a panel or something. I don't know. Well, anyway, I'll see you guys soon. Bye.
Bye.